One.
And welcome back, Year 5. We have spent 6 weeks looking at the ancient Greeks. And Miss Rodwell and I have been having a little bit of a debate about what we think is the greatest legacy. Now, we don't necessarily agree, and that's the whole point of debating. And we'd like you to have a think about, what do you think the ancient Greeks have done for us? What is their greatest legacy? So I had a little think about this, and I thought, well, all of the aspects that we've looked at matter quite a lot in one way or another. Art is really important. Theatre is something that a lot of us enjoy, and that was something that the Greeks started off, the ancient Greeks. We've also found out that the Olympics was one of their inventions, if you like. So they've done a lot for society, and it's still around today, over 2,000 years later. However, I decided that I think democracy is the biggest legacy, the greatest legacy that the ancient Greeks have left behind. And after much consideration, I decided that the number one fact that makes that the most important, is that it affects all of us every day. Every day of our lives, we are under the control of whoever's in power. For us at the moment, it's the Conservative government, and Boris Johnson is the Prime Minister, which I'm sure you all know. But what they decide affects everybody every day. And it was the ancient Greeks that first started that off. So for me, that is the most important. But I know that Miss Rodwell has got other ideas. So it's over to you, Miss Rodwell.
Yes, so you think that democracy is the greatest legacy. However, I think that the Olympic Games is the greatest legacy left behind by the ancient Greeks, purely because it's a global event, it's an international event. So, where democracy, because I know not all countries value democracy, the majority of countries participate in the Olympic Games, and it brings countries that may not be as well off as other countries together, and they're under the same conditions, they've got the same rules for everyone, and it just unifies the world for 16 days every 4 years. So that's my first part of the debate.
Okay, that's interesting. I can see why you would think that, and that you do make some really valid points there. However, my counter attack on that would be that it is something that only happens once every 4 years. So for the 3 years and 360 days in between, it doesn't matter that much unless it's the Olympic athletes who are training for the next Olympics. And it doesn't affect people in the same way that living under a democracy, because unless they're particularly interested in sport, or they are training for the Olympics, or they are traveling to countries to watch the Olympics, it doesn't affect people in the same way that democracy does, because democracy is how we live our lives on a day-to-day basis. And if it wasn't for the ancient Greeks, who first gave ordinary citizens the chance to vote for the laws that were going to be put in place, and who was going to govern them, and what events were going to happen in their city-states at that time, if it wasn't for the ancient Greeks starting that ball rolling, then where would we be now? And I know that they didn't allow women and slaves to vote at that time, but we have come a long way since then. And of course, anybody aged 18 and over has the right to vote, provided they are registered to vote. Therefore, they have their say, if you like. And to me, the reason why I feel that is the greatest legacy is because it affects everybody every day, not just every 4 years.
Okay. Yep, I completely see where you're coming from, because like you said, it's something that we deal with on a daily basis. However, some issues that isn't always addressed correctly in the terms of democracy. So for example, currently we're facing the George Floyd incident in relation to Black Lives Matter, the Olympic Games in the past has been a platform to address those issues that maybe some world leaders haven't addressed so openly. So, for example, in 1968, two Black American athletes won some medals, and whilst being presented the medals, they did the Black Power salute, which took really the focus of the whole Olympic Games away from that winning of the presenting of the medals, and it then went on to loads of discussion in the media, loads of press coverage all over the world, which then began a ball rolling as to looking into the differences between black and white athletes at the time, which 1968 was what, nearly, I don't know, I can't work that out really quickly, 40 years ago, just over 40 years ago. And it's something we're still dealing with now.
50.
However,
52 years ago.
However, at that time, it wasn't something that was really spoken about or vocally talked about. So Olympic Games can be used to address some issues that democracy doesn't really put out there or talk openly about in some instances.
That's a really strong point as well, and I totally take on board what you're saying there. And I do think the Olympics, again, because of the ancient Greeks starting that off, again, it was only men that were allowed to participate, but obviously now we've got the Paralympics, black and white athletes. It is in that area that black people tend to have more numbers, strength in numbers, and are, you know, supreme athletes. I'm thinking probably people like Usain Bolt. And yes, you've got really, really good points. However, would my life be affected? I'm just thinking, you know, for me, would my life be affected if the Olympics was scrapped altogether? Would my life be any worse for no Olympics every 4 years? And I have to say, for me personally, I don't think it would matter that much if the government decided there was going to be no Olympics. There is no Olympics this year, obviously, because of COVID-19. No doubt it will be back next year. Will it make a great difference to my day-to-day life, whether it exists or it doesn't? For me personally, not really. Would it make a difference if we did away with democracy and became what's known as a totalitarian state? For Nazi Germany, when Hitler was in power, that was a totalitarian state where people had no say. North Korea, I believe, is one of the few totalitarian states that are left, where you have a supreme leader that basically tells everybody what they're going to do and they have no say. Would I want to live under those conditions? Most definitely not. Is our system brilliant? Probably not. Is it as good as we can make it at the moment? That's arguable too. But the fact that I, as an individual, have the chance to vote for the person that I want to run my country and have a say matters to me more than you know, a sporting event that happens once every 4 years. So that's where I stand on that one. And for me, that's why democracy is the most important legacy that the ancient Greeks left behind.
Yeah, I completely agree with you in that I wouldn't want to be told what to do every day on a daily basis and not have any say in it whatsoever. However, on some instances with democracy, you have the right to vote. However, you don't always get who you wanted in power. So sometimes democracy feels a bit, not of a waste of time, but what's the point in doing it? Because sometimes you go into some elections thinking, oh, well, we think this person's going to win and they probably are going to win, so I will vote. But you already know before the elections even started who is going to win, and you might not necessarily agree with them. However, the Olympic Games only happens every 4 years, but just before, well, a couple of years before it's hosted, several cities get picked, and they basically have to compete for who takes the next hosting of the Olympic Games. And in this case, for example, Canada, they threw a lot of money into their country to make it amazing, and basically for the Olympic Games to want to go there, and it can benefit them in the fact that the Olympic Games do go to cities and the country does make money from the Olympic Games. So it could be in the idea of tourism. Loads of people from all over the world go there to support their own country. They may just want to be a part of the Olympic Games, and it can result in hotels gaining money, or restaurants gaining money. You've got all these people coming over from other countries that probably wouldn't have come if the Olympic Games weren't held there. So yeah, so it only happens once every 4 years. However, the benefits of the Olympic Games is longer than 16 days every 4 years. It helps the economy of that particular country, whoever's hosting it at the time. But obviously, I know every country has hosted it.
Yeah, and this is the whole point of this unit, is that really thinking about the wider issues and thinking about why do you believe what you believe. And we really look forward to the Year 5 sharing their ideas. And as you will find on the grids that get emailed out, we've had our own little mini debate. We will have to draw a line under this debate, because we could be here for months, couldn't we, Miss Rodwell? We could be here debating for months about who's got the biggest, the best idea, or which is the strongest legacy or the greatest legacy. So we'll call it a day on this debate. I think you hopefully will agree that there are good, strong arguments for both sides of this debate. And we'd like you to have a go yourselves. So maybe you could get filmed debating with mum, dad, granny, brother, the dog, whoever, putting your point across. Maybe you could put a PowerPoint together. I've put a brief PowerPoint on the system for you to have a look at. Maybe you could do what Miss Rodwell's going to tell you about with her leaflet that she's put lots of detail in. So, you know, how you present your argument for this is up to you, but we would love to see your decisions on what do you feel is the greatest legacy of the ancient Greeks.
Yep, so keep an eye out for a second video that will be going up. I'll just go on to Purple Mash and just explain how I put the leaflet together and how you can do that idea if you want. If you want to do something similar to what Mrs. Underwood has done, which is create a PowerPoint, just to put all your thinking down for you to refer to, because I know the leaflet helped me a lot, because I referenced that just before having a debate with Mrs. Underwood, just to make sure I got my key points in my head. You could also get an A3 sheet of paper and do a big poster if you want. It's basically just taking everything that is in your head and putting it down on paper or on the computer in a different way. So just exploring how to use maybe the computer in a different way, or you can make a leaflet in front, like write in a leaflet, design your own leaflet and take a picture and send it. We just really want to see what you guys all think is the greatest legacy left behind by the ancient Greeks, because I know it's going to be quite interesting to see what the majority do think after researching it all yourselves. I think so. Definitely.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yes.
So thanks, and we will see you soon.
Take care. Bye.